Australian QSR breakfast incidents rose above 8% in the year to June 2026 as major brands chased new growth opportunities. To give us more context, we have Ben Dixon of Fonto and Jeff Bannister of Betty's Burgers. Glad you could both join us, Ben and Jeff. So, what does a winning breakfast actually look like for you?
As a brand, so far, very early days, but we're not just seeing a breakfast sale, but by offering our entire menu from open, what we're seeing is the shift worker who loves a burger at 9 a.m., the customer who wants to come in and order a coffee and pre-order their lunch for pickup later in the day. The really positive thing which we're seeing is the growth in our shoulder hours, which previously will never open.
And how about for you, Ben?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, winning breakfast in QSR is really going to be about how well does that breakfast day part grow the category. Obviously, you want to see your own overall market share growth, but what we've seen with other brands across the QSR sector who are launching breakfast is often they're shifting that from another occasion or another day part. So you've got to demonstrably increase your total spending across customers. So given QSR is a pretty stable category, we're not seeing a great increase in consumer spending. And it's also facing hundreds of planned new store openings in Australia, a lot by the challenger brands like Betty's. We work closely with Jeff and Joanne and the team, but at Fonto, we managed to track both the daily transactions from all the major QSR brands and then the customer experience from those individuals every day. So you want to make sure that for each of those occasions, and breakfast is important, that you're hitting the mark.
But the breakfast customers more older and more male than most brands expect. How does that change the commercial case for entering the day part?
Yeah, look, I'll take that one first. I think it's a really useful place to understand where to start to build your breakfast customer base, because what we do know is that 20% of all QSR customers drive 60% of the volume. So total sales by volume driven by 20% of the customers. So capturing heavy buyers early is key. In breakfast specifically, 60%, the number you just talked about as well, of QSR breakfast orders come from males who are 50 plus. So this sets the scene for brands like KFC and Betty's Burgers to test their menus and their operating platforms. The second piece is Generation Z are much more interested in making conscious and purposeful decisions about their food choices. So make sure that they are also being looked after in the world of loyalty, accessible price, promotional tactics, and those sort of things.
And what's your take on this, Jeff?
Well, the great part about working with Fonto is that the data confirms what we've always believed, is that freshness and quality are what sets Betty's Burgers apart and what sets us apart from the rest of the burger category. So that's what exactly we've done with our breakfast bundles so far. We've built them to exactly the same high standards and quality that our customers already expect from our burgers. And the other part is that we're really genuinely priced and we're price competitive. So we think that that combination is the quality, the taste, the value that you always get from Betty's is what really is going to see us win over those QSR customers in the future.
How about the hardest part? Can you tell us about it? What was the hardest part of making breakfast work, and what did it cost you when it got it wrong?
Yeah, I think from ourselves, and I'll take that one first, Ben, is that, what newcomers quickly discover is that breakfast is an entirely different customer experience to lunch and dinner. It's not a once or a twice a week transaction, it's a ritual. So really to win in breakfast, what we've had to do is that you need to train to become your customers' part of their daily routine. So it's that trusted, familiar face that's almost a confidant. So that means also we've had to look at our restaurant atmosphere to get the mood and the tempo right, not just entirely the menu. So our music sits a little bit lower during those morning day parts, so you can have that conversation. And the team is trained, I guess, to read the moment, whether the customer needs the usual or the quick coffee or wants to take an extra moment to sit down and have a bit of relax. That's what we've found so far.
And how about for Fonto, Ben?
Look, I think there's always this assumption that good coffee helps you win breakfast. the reality is that 80% of all orders that happen in this breakfast time slot actually also include food, and 40% of those actually include a soft drink as well. So it's about a layered offering that you've got to think about. So great coffee, and I agree you have to have great coffee. That's a given. And Jeff just talked about loyalty, but you've got to start that loyalty by having menu items that people crave. So they've got to think about you, be able to smell you and taste you, go, that's where I'm going for breakfast. And then that builds that routine that Jeff was referring to. The other thing that I think brands going into breakfast need to think about is, are they putting menu items up that you can take as a treat for later? If they're buying a soft drink or a snack that helps them cover morning tea as well, and they don't have to get out of the car on the way to work again, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the last layer in breakfast is, for most of the major brands who are offering breakfast menus, you can also buy lunch, like burgers and everything else at lunch. So how do you overcome those operational challenges that said, I've actually got a full menu open, including breakfast and the usual lunch and dinner items. So operational execution is a big part of it as well.
Now let's also talk about the future. So where do you see breakfast daypart going from here?
Oh, look, I think it was always going to be the next battleground, and we're going to be watching KFC and Betty's and others very closely to see how they evolve the customer base for this morning segment. As I said earlier, the category is pretty stable. So are you growing the overall category, or are you competing? Well, when I say growing the overall category, are you competing with the local cafes and bakeries and really taking share off them? Or are you mostly taking share off other QSR day parts, which we've actually seen with some of the larger players in the past? So the key will be making sure that you are really looking after those customers. And again, Jeff talked to this, that you fought so hard to win in this new day part that people are fighting it out.
What's your take on this, Jeff?
Yeah, I think from an operator's perspective, I think the next phase of the competition won't just be one on breakfast alone. It'll be one on how we naturally breakfast connects to the rest of the day. The Betty's business has been built around primarily dining in. What we're finding is the significant growth in the takeaway and obviously the delivery market. And even as we move as a business into, I guess, drive-throughs and freestanding restaurants, we've really had to evolve into, I think what Ben discussed as well, is the takeaway side as well, and eating in your vehicle or your car on your way to work or as you're traveling. So that's what we're finding. I think it's that side of the 9 a.m. burger, the coffee on the way to work, the lunch placed, early in the morning for pickup later in the day. That's where we can really win and where we can create that relationship with the customer. And that's where, I think, that's the thing. It's the ritual experience that we are trying to create from the brand.
Well, we are looking forward to seeing what's next from Betty's and Fonto. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Ben and Jeff.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Once again, those were Ben Dixon, CEO of Fonto, and Jeff Bannister, Regional Manager for New South Wales and the Australian Capital Territory at Betty's Burgers. For more news, visit qsrmedia.com.au.